welcome to Babies and Blooms. Today we are going to be talking about propagating lavender. What we love about propagating lavender is that lavender does grow really quickly. So it's not something that you're going to propagate and you're going to have to wait forever and ever and ever for it to root and then grow. So you get really fast results, and it's really easy to do. Lavender does propagate really well, and then you can clone your plant. Let's say you have a plant in your yard, it's a beautiful lavender, you don't know what varietal it is, or you can't find a similar one, you can just make a clone of it, and then you don't have to know what it is, and you'll get the exact same thing that you had in your garden before. So what we're going to be making, we're going to be propagating softwood. You can do softwood or you can do hardwood, but it's springtime now, so we are going to use softwood because we have a lot of it. These are just some cuttings that we have from the lavender. Before we get into what cuttings to use, we're going to talk a little bit about your soil, or like how we like to call it, your dirt. And you can choose two different kinds of containers to put your lavender in. You're propagating. You can do the plastic ones. Every time I buy something from the nursery, I save the plastic. And then, or you can buy these we got these at Walmart. Jiffy makes these. These are like biodegradable pots. And they are really nice. The only downfall is they dry out really quickly. So if it's really hot and you're not that good at watering, these will dry out really fast for you. I got a couple of examples from our kind of reject lavender that we didn't plant from the last time we propagated. And see, the one in the biodegradable is all dead, dried out. This one's kind of still holding on to some life, even though I haven't watered these for quite a while. This one kind of is, even though it's in the biodegradable, it's still holding on. There's no moisture in here because it's quite dry. And then this one probably has just a tad. It's a little bit more moisturized. So those were doing really well, but you give up on watering them and they will die. I will show you how we mix our soil. We do use this perlite. Perlite is a volcanic rock, and it will kind of aerate your soil while promoting moisture. So it's not going to make a soggy soil. It will make it really nice and airy. It'll hold on to moisture on the outside of the perlite and just kind of make it a really nice environment for the roots to develop. So you want to do 50-50. We don't use quite 50-50 because this is, more expensive than soil. So we just use, I just kind of eyeball it and throw it in there, and you get a good amount of perlite in there. I always have a big bucket mixed up of kind of what I'm going to use in the greenhouse for mixing up plants. And I'll usually do, a bunch of different kinds of soils, like, I throw the perlite in there, but then I also do, whatever we have, and we kind of mix it up. And then I have it on hand here. I don't, just makes it a lot easier. So if I'm going to use this pot, I'll just dip right in here. This might not be enough perlite. A little bit more. Kind of toss it in here. Okay. You can pat it down a little bit. And then, when I'm choosing my cuttings here, you definitely don't want to plant something like this that has a ton of leaves plus a flower. The plant itself is going to use all of its energy to keep these leaves alive, plus this flower, and it's going to kind of forget about rooting. So I'll strip it down, take most of the leaves off. I see some people, they'll strip everything off, but I like to keep something on there so at least I know if it's alive or not. If you don't have anything on it, it's kind of hard to tell if it's alive. Like my propagating I have over here. If I would have had a leaf on here, I'd be able to tell if it was alive, but that one's definitely not. But I don't have one, so it's kind of like, maybe it's alive, maybe it's not. Or down here I have propagated here some lemon tree, And see how I have this leaf here? Pretty sure it's alive because the leaf is still alive. If the leaf had turned brown and fallen off, I think that would be a good indicator that it was dead. So I have a little shoot here, a couple of leaves, and you know, a nice healthy stalk. And then you want like a good cut on the end. And then what we don't always use rooting hormone, but it is really nice, and I always have it. It's really inexpensive, and so this is garden safe take root rooting hormone. This will just give you that kind of extra, you know, love for the plant that you really need. And what I do is I always lick it, and I get a good amount of spit on it, and then I dip it down into my rooting hormone. Look how great that is. Look at all that nice. Tap a little bit of the extra off. So then you can make yourself a little hole, and you can stick your rooting, you can stick your little thing down in there. So if you don't have a greenhouse, one really great thing you can do is you can take like the 2-liter cola, and you can cut the top off and pop this right on top, and it'll kind of make a little greenhouse, because you do want to make sure that you don't lose moisture and it doesn't dry out. Okay, so I'm going to make a few more of these, and one thing that's important is to use kind of a bigger, I mean, I know these are pretty small, but they're not as small as these. You know, they're quite bigger, because lavender has really long roots. They kind of grow straight down. So a lot of my lavender that I propagated last time, especially the ones that I did in the biodegradable pots, the ones that got a lot of moisture, they would start to fall apart kind of in the bottom like this. And then the roots were going straight down into the ground. And so all of my really good lavenders were kind of locked into the dirt. And that was at the bottom of the greenhouse. So you do need a little bit of room from the lavender to grow. I think that's one of the reasons that, you know, lavender is really good for drier climates, because they do have those long roots. They like their roots to dry out. So once you do plant these in your garden, just know that you don't want to overwater them and oversaturate them. They do want to be dry every once in a while. So I'm going to do a couple more of these. Pat it down, that's nice. Soil there, some good moisture. Again, I'm going to take, and you don't have to just use the very top of these, you know, you can cut them down a little bit, because the very top is going to be a little bit more fragile than down below. Tap off the excess. Now the lavender that we are propagating today, we got into this because it was a varietal that we could no longer buy. We looked everywhere for it. We had bought it at our local nursery, and then we were no longer able to buy it. We asked them if we could order it from them, and they said no. And it's a really beautiful big lavender. It has really pretty green leaves. So a lot of people think about lavender in terms of its flower, but we look at the greens a lot, because sometimes lavender can have like a really silvery kind of gray leaf. And I don't really like silver gray in my garden. I like more bright greens, rich greens, and this lavender in particular has a really pretty green, and its flower is also really big and pretty. I mean, you can see the flower just from one of these cuttings, and we'll show you a clip of the actual plants that we got these from, but these are really pretty, and they do have a bright purple on them. Really hardy plant. Okay, so there's a few. I have success doing the same form of propagating with a lot of different things. The blood orange is kind of a new experiment, but I have done it with orange. I've done it a lot with roses. The problem with roses, I do find it takes a long time for your plant to get really big, and roses are pretty inexpensive, and they're not something that you need to buy a ton of. I mean, max in your garden, maybe you'll buy like 10 roses, but lavender, if you want to line the row, with lavender, you could need 20, 50, depending on how big your property is and how much lavender you do want to have. So propagating it is really cost effective and a good option, I think. Okay, so I just wanted to show you the root system on these. This one I let die from not watering it. And as you can see, we cut, this is the very end of the cutting, and look, the roots come straight from the very bottom and almost straight down. They do fan out a little bit, but they're mostly coming straight down. So even though I put rooting hormone up the top, they're not going to root. They're not going to root right there. Some things will root, up the stem like a tomato or something like that, but as far as lavenders go, they're gonna grow straight from the bottom. So what I want to show you really quick is in one of our previous videos we talked about my greenhouse from Harbor Freight, and also the hydraulic arm that I purchased, or my brother purchased for me, off of Amazon. And my sister asked, as I was talking about it, whether or not it actually works, because it was open, it was hot that day, and I just want to show you that now it's closing a little bit. So it's a cooler day. That day was maybe like 80, and today we've had a nice cool day, so it's maybe like 60 out. So it is more closed than it was previously, and it'll probably close all the way tonight, I would guess. But yeah, it's a really nice thing to have. Here's some of the lavender that I already propagated, and you can see it's doing really well. I did put it on a drip, and this is a button dripper. This is a 1/2 gallon per hour. Now this drip mostly only supplies roses, and so I put my roses on a 5 gallon per hour because I don't water that often. So in comparison, 5 gallons an hour, 1/2 gallon per hour. These lavenders don't need that much water, and you don't want them to get too wet, especially here we have clay, so our dirt will hold on to a lot of the moisture. But if you want to zoom in, I'll show you. I planted it in the biodegradable pot, the ones that I propagated them in. I did this because I didn't want to disturb too much of the root system, and I didn't want to have all the dirt falling out everywhere. So that is one of the bonuses of using one of those biodegradable pots. And all I did was I just popped the bottom off of it and put it in the dirt. After a while, this is all gonna start to flake off, but they're doing pretty well. See, it has a nice green color, really pretty flower, and these are gonna get huge. So really excited. And these are not very old. I mean, we maybe propagated them a couple of months ago, and I put these in the ground maybe like 2 weeks ago, and they were only, this big. So they're doing really well, and I'm just gonna line the fence with them. And okay, thanks for watching. I know that was kind of a simple video, but propagating is really simple. It's not that difficult. You could do it without the rooting hormone. It's not necessarily needed, but we have really good success with it. And comment down below and let us know what other things you propagate or have had success with propagating, and so we could try it at home. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll have some more fun kind of beginner gardening videos for you soon.